right. Hello there. Happy Mindset Monday. Mindset Monday. So there's a lot that I wanted to talk to you about today. I am going to try to speak slowly and carefully today. I want to try to stay on topic, so that's what I'm going to try to do. I want to thank each and every one who's watching me on the replay. Feel free to leave a comment as you watch on the replay. This is a continuation of the one I did last Wednesday. And it was my first installment, I will say, and of Enemy at the Gate. So I gave a little story when I was in the military, and I shared that story, and I'll just go, briefly. I was in the military, I was guarding the gate, and someone was coming into the gate, and I had to make a decision as a soldier. I'm standing there, looking, observing, praying for wisdom. What do I do in this situation? I don't, sometimes whenever, someone asks, hey, can you do this or can you do that? I have to think about it, because even the good intentions, if I'm not supposed to do it, it can be not favorable. And so that's how I live my life. So even if something looks good, like why would you not want to? Well, I wouldn't want to if I'm not supposed to be doing that. Maybe I'm supposed to be doing something else. So I really like to think strategically. So I'm at the gate. I have on my full battle rattle, right? As a soldier, my helmet. I spoke about this last week. My belt, my boots, all my good stuff on, right? My equipment on. And I'm standing there at the gate trying to decide what to do with this individual that's coming in at the gate. So I prayed about it, and the Lord reminded me of that individual I'd seen a day or so before in the mess hall. And so that helped me to make the decision. Okay, so this person is not an enemy. Okay, and so I use that as an analogy to paint for Christians. We are in many cases in situations that we have not, we're not standing on what we believe. We're not standing on our faith, and we are not equipped. We are not ready. We are not ready because we're not equipped. And so if I don't know my assignment, if I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, the tools that I've been given, I can mishandle them. I cannot exercise them and grow them to the degree, to the capacity that is useful for those that I serve. No, I am not the sum total of my God-given gifts. I am a child of the Most High. I am the daughter of a king. That is my identity. That is my genetic makeup. Hello there, Mr. D. I'm so glad. Listen, I want you to chime in, okay? So chime in. But we're talking about Enemy at the Gate today. And you of all people, I know that you would appreciate this. At least I believe. So anyway, I was speaking about my experience in the Army, and I had to have my all of my equipment on, and I had to have my helmet on, had to have my boots on, had to have my full battle rattle is what we call it, right? Had to have all that on. I had my weapon, and I was ready to do what I needed to do. And I saw this individual coming in at the gate because I'm guarding the gate, right? And I had to pray. And the Lord had given me a revelation, brought back to my memory this individual, and that is what determined, okay, this person is not an enemy, they are with us, right? And so I was saying that as a believer, many times we are not standing, we're not standing the way we should. We are not equipped, and we are not ready. We're not ready because we're not equipped. And I am not the sum total of my God-given gifts. However, if I don't exercise them and grow in them, I am not ready to stand at the gate for which I have been assigned to. And I spoke about this last week. I do exercises. I do my walking workouts. I've been working out. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. I started working out at 11 years old. And I did not know then, but I do know now, that is what I have been called to, is to bring people to a level of healing and health and well-being. And although I have evolved into soul care and coaching, I have not turned away from my working out, my praise dance, my all of those things are tools that help me carry out my assignment. So I am not a praise dancer. I do it. I am a daughter. I am the daughter of a king. And because I am the daughter of a king, my culture is a kingdom culture. And because I am the daughter of a king, I have inherited benefits and access that others who are not of that kingdom have. And so I love the analogy of being in the military, because I put on my Kevlar helmet, right? I put on that belt. I put on those boots, right? If I cannot stand in the space that I'm called to if I don't put on what I need to put on to stand there. Just being a soldier, what does that mean? That means nothing to me because you're a soldier. But what you are equipped with is what is a threat to me. So the enemy is never, come on, I knew you would. Come on, I knew you would. This is you right here. So I want you to chime in. But when, I'm going to try to stay on track, but when we don't understand who we are, and we say, oh, I'm a Christian, the devil can't do this, the enemy can't do that, you don't even know how to use your tools. You have no idea how to use your tools. Matter of fact, your tools have gotten so weak, you don't even know how to turn them on anymore. So, one of the things I do, you guys have seen in the videos, I am lifting weights. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the scientific, what's happening with the weights. If I want to grow muscle, right? And I've said this before, that spirit is reflected in the natural. Okay, it's not natural then spirit. Spirit is reflected into the natural, right? It's manifested into the natural. And briefly on manifestation, listen, I manifest the will of God in the earth realm because I've been given authority, because I am in a body. Okay, this body gives me access to this realm. Okay, now when I stand in my God-given authority, now I have access to things. If I don't stand in that authority, and then therefore I manifest because I've been given a steward to do that. Now, if I take and bring myself out of that alignment, I can still manifest, but it doesn't mean I'm in alignment. So that means the blowback that comes from it can take you out, can wipe you out. Okay, there is always a price to pay. You cannot operate in the spiritual realm and not have consequences if you have not been given license, if you've not been given authority. I don't even have authority to go into every battle. And this is what I was saying lightly earlier. If I am not called to that place at that time, I am not given access to that battle, which means I don't have my armor. this is where we look at when we read the Bible. Sometimes we make it so religious that we miss it. But when David told, oh my goodness, I'm losing the name. He didn't want to put on the armor. It didn't fit him because he was already called for the fight. The battle was already won. But whew, come on, the body was gonna be David, right? The battle was already won, right? Because it had already happened in the spirit. That battle had already been taken. The victory had already been won. But the body that was going to carry it out had to be David. So he didn't need, I think it was Saul's armor. He didn't need his armor because it was already won. And why was that? Because when he was a shepherd, he was getting his armor that way. So come on. Woo. Woo. Lord, I thank you. And so, let me see. Whenever we go into a battle, access, entry points, and gates. Access, entry points, and gates, okay? Because if I don't put on my armor, my tools, right? So what I wanted to share was David was being equipped when he was a shepherd, okay? Now there's this thing, and my Jewish brothers and sisters, if you watch this video, please put the right word, but I believe it was snood, and it means secret. Now secrets are for man. We can have secrets that are done in dark. They're done in dark, but it doesn't mean that it's illegal or something that is a bad secret, right? But it's not seen. But revelation belongs to God. Okay? And so this is why, come on. And so this is why when the Father comes into a place, no word has to be uttered, but truth will always show up. Woo! Truth will always show up. And so when I go into a training, one time the Father said to me that he was going to train me in the dark. He was going to train me in the dark, which means I had to go into a dark place. Come on. I had to go into a dark place. Woo! Lord, I thank you. The Spirit of the Lord is on this live today, and I know I just want to acknowledge that the Spirit of the Lord is on this live today. If any of this is resonating with you, I just want you to take it. When you say, oh, that made me feel chills, what was it that made you feel chills? That is the evidence of the Father speaking to you. Take that to Him and grow in that. Now, thank you, Lord. So, by me being trained in the dark, I just came out of a training. Trained in the dark, which means I have to learn the atmosphere. I have to learn what it lives like. I have to learn how it operates. I have to learn all of those things in order to, I have to be familiar with it. Yes, I have to walk with it. Come on. I cannot, if I can't walk with it, I can't discern what's going on. So He takes me into these places to train me. That was my Carolina season. When you guys saw me there, I couldn't make it up. You saw me. I had no idea what was happening until I looked back and He began to give me revelation towards the end of all of that. I thought I was going to be there, but He sent me there because there was some training that needed to happen within me. He sent people to me in that season that I would not have known otherwise, to coach me in things, right? That He had that unlocked things in me and made me more aware. And when I became more aware, then He took my papers, like in the military, we come down on an assignment, right? We get our papers. Those papers tell us when we are to report to that post, tell us the time and all of those types of things, right? So He gave me my papers and said, okay, now I'm sending you back. And so when I get those types of trainings, this is where I can share the knowledge, because it's the revelation that comes as He shines His light on it, right? I don't operate in darkness, okay? And so um, the equipment is what we need, right? The tools is what we need. We need to understand the tools that we have, and we all have them. But what I wanted to share was, when I'm working out and I'm lifting weights, okay, if I want to grow muscle, that means I want to grow muscle density, right? Which means I want to grow quality muscle, okay? So think about making pancakes, and you put way too much flour in those pancakes, and that batter is so stiff now, so dense that you can barely turn it, okay? That's like what the metabolism is, all right? Now, what is happening to that muscle is I am literally causing these little micro tears. You see those little gaps? I'm creating micro tears within the muscle to the degree that it's breaking that muscle down. Now, the beautiful thing about, as I break it down mindfully and carefully to not cause injury, but to promote growth. And so what the Father does is he puts us in situations where it causes these micro tears spiritually, this brokenness spiritually, come on, and the oil begins to come out and flow out. And as the oil Lord, I thank you. And as the oil begins to flow out and overflow, we are now ready to go into the place that he's called us. And so, oh, I knew. Thank you. I'm so glad. Praise the Lord. So listen, you cannot have access to spaces if you've not been broken down in those dark places. If you've not come to the place where you cry out and you say, I can't do this by myself. If you've not come to that place yet, you've not gotten there yet. And so that is how all of the things that I'm able to share with you now is because the Father told me to emerge. Now, why would he tell me to emerge if I was already visible? I wasn't visible because I was being trained in the dark. But now that that season has come to an end, or to a close, right? Now to emerge, right? To emerge with what? With the revelation that he has given me. Okay? And so that means that the tools that he's given me, right? I am now made aware of them. I've been made aware of them, but not just aware, because that's not enough. But how do I use them? And what are they used for? Because you can have a knife. That knife can be for battle, or it can be for cutting food. You have to know what your tools are for. So it's not enough just to know your gifts, but what are those gifts for? I have the gift of movement, which means I can do fight stances, which means I can do dance, which means I can do exercise. It's all the same, but it's used differently in different rooms or different spaces. Okay, I am not a praise dancer and a personal trainer. No, I am a child of God, right? And whenever I'm called into a fitness environment, I use movement that looks like workouts. But when I'm called to a workshop or a church, I use praise dance. But when I am called into another place where I am to pray, then I may use gestures, right? So that's how I am. That's how I operate. And so it's never about trying to show off or trying to be young. That is a very fleshy, low-minded way of thinking, and it is transparent of the lack of depth, the lack of perception. There's this word, depth perception. And when someone does not have depth perception, they're not able to see the 3D. Everything looks flat. And sometimes, Lord, I thank you. Sometimes we have become so religious that we have no depth perception. So a woman with a tank top is trying to show herself off, or a man with a tank top is trying to show himself off, or someone who just got promoted is trying to show off, because we lack depth perception, right? And so we just equate everything. We write everything off to be sinful, everything off to be not of God. Everything off to be, right, as if we are the expert of the all-knowing God. We are not the expert. He is. And so the equipment that we need for the gate that we've been assigned to is mandatory. Okay? It is mandatory. If you are sitting in a building that calls itself a church, and you have no knowledge of your gifts, no knowledge of your call, no understanding of how to exercise and grow in it, you will remain ill-equipped. And there is a joy that comes from, because the Father gives us a desire of our hearts. I don't desire, He gives me what to desire. And as I operate out of that desire, joy, I am filled. So sometimes we are feeling empty because we're not operating out of the assignment that we've been called to carry out. Okay? And this is why we are spirit, soul, and body. Because the soul part, many times in religious circles, the soul part is not addressed. And it is highly irresponsible, because we leave individuals not feeling validated. It is the soul, bless the Lord, all my soul. Oh my soul. What does that mean? It means when I know I should be blessing the Lord, but I'm so just down, I can't even begin to press in. Then I have to command my soul to come into alignment. I command my soul to bless the Lord, right? We lose that. And it is highly irresponsible because we're not addressing. One of the things I see too is that we're not, because we've not been equipped. I said this last week. My responsibility of operating in the gift is not so I can flex, but it is to care for you. And you knowing your gifts is to care for me. We are members of one body, connected through Yeshua, right? And so just like my house is a member, is a body in its own, in the name of Baruch, right? That is, every member of my home every person in my home is a member of that Baruch body. And we help one another. We serve one another. We are family, right? Corporately, when we go to churches, that is a corporate family. Nationally, we are a corporate family. And so what I wanted to get to is, when we have an enemy at the gate, the enemy, we're going to need discernment in order to know, is this really an enemy or is this a friend? And the only way to know, the only way to have real discernment is to be pressed in, is to be connected with, is to walk with the Father, right? Is to walk with the Lord. And the Holy Spirit begins to give us revelation on, right? This person is not, okay? Now, when we are not walking with the Father, there is another influence, okay? Now, I hear this a lot. We can say, Lord bless me with that, Lord bless me with this, Lord bless me with that. But we don't have the weapon. We're not fighting. We're just asking, and sometimes we're just begging. But if the Father has called you to anything, there is some opposition that comes with it. And I like to say it this way: the battle is opposite your position. You have to get through the battle, right? You have to get through the battle. Now, when I was in the Carolinas, before I even hit Carolina ground again, because I'm from the Carolinas, right? This was, I think, 2 years prior. I was driving my daughter to daycare, and I heard the Lord say, I'm going to put your family back together. Now, I've told this testimony in churches here, but that's what He said. He said, I'm going to put your family back together. Now, the power of His presence in that car was so overwhelming. I would just begin to bless the Lord. I was crying. It was happy, right? But the trouble didn't come until about 2 years later. Okay? And so 2 years later, I had no idea what was going on. And then He said, You're going to have to go back home. And I said, I don't want to go back. Not that I hate home. I love home. But I don't want to go back. I had clients there. I was busy there. It didn't even seem like a good time for me. But he said that there were some things he was going to do there. I got there, some things carried out, and more than I even knew. I grew so much more than I would have, and I needed it. Because one of the things about breakthrough, one of the things about growth, is that there has to be a stripping away. There has to be a falling off. There has to be a breaking off, and there has to be a healing. Okay? So there has to be a shedding off. There has to be a breaking off. There has to be a sloughing off of the old man, of the old ways, of the old routines, of the old friends who mean you no good, or maybe they did in one season, but they can't go with you in the next season. It is mandatory that you go through a shedding, a sloughing, a breaking. Okay? It is mandatory that ashes are there. Okay? And I remember being in that pit at that time, and he was prophesying palace to me. He was prophesying palace in the midst of a pit. But I remembered the promise that he was going to put my family back together 2 years prior. And I prayed that for 2 more years when it looked like nothing was going to change. And in the midst of all of that, I was still learning and growing and healing. So when you go through those hard spots, those tough spots, right? This is where you get to know who your God really is, because I promise you, we can go through life, or life can go through us. And who our God is will determine which one happens, how we go through that. Okay? And so it took me 2.5 years, and he put my family back together. Okay? He did that. Now that's just one of the many trainings that I had to go through. That's just one of the many. And I hear people say, oh, if I could pray like you, you don't want to have to go through what I had to go through to learn how to pray this way. But you do want to know what your gifts are and learn how to operate in them. You do want to know that. And so I just wanted to encourage you today and let you know, listen, life can life, right? It is important for us to know who we are. Our identity should be in the Father. Now, I remember being in a place, and the people there, they were crying out to the Lord, but the prayers were one that was begging. And I heard the Father say, listen to how they're praying. I never said beg. I always said ask. The Bible says we have not because we ask not. Not we have not because we beg not, but we have not because we ask not. If my children ask my husband for something, they ask and they expect to get it. They expect it to the degree it's like, wow. Because they know who their dad is. When we walk with the Father, this is not about religion. This is about the kingdom, right? The kingdom. So one of the things I was saying about being in the military, what I have, what I put on, reflects the kingdom that I am a part of, right? It's cultural. I've said this before. I'm Skodore Wokan, and the way I see life, the way I perceive life, the way I think about life, the way I filter and process information is cultural, and I inherit that culture. I inherit those ways. I inherit the way it's carried out. So I come from a dancing people. We know that indigenous Americans, many, right? You see the dancing, you see the powwows, you see the ceremonies, right? There's going to be some praying and there's going to be some dancing. I can't shake that. I won't shake that because that's who I am. I won't. In order for me to deny myself is denying my people, and to deny my people is to deny how the Father made me. I won't do that. I won't do that. And so I wanted to leave you with this. We need everyone. We need everyone. There is, you can read this in the Bible, you can Google it, but how curses fell on people to the fourth generation. And the fourth generation is about 100 years. And one of the enemies at our gate in this nation I'll put it this way, and I recommend that you do the research. Curses can fall on a nation, can fall on a people, generational curses. When you see patterns in your family, in your bloodline, 3-4 generations, your uncle had it, the dad had it, maybe it runs through the men, or it runs through the women, or it runs through the families, right? And it's not a good pattern or a good way. That could be a generational curse that was passed down. Now you inherited it because of the code, the genetic code. This is why when we come into the kingdom, right? Spiritually, our code, our DNA, there's a spiritual, because we have been spiritually adopted, we are also grafted in, even down to the biologically, right? This is how we are transformed. We can't necessarily read it on a CAT scan, but we are transformed by the Spirit of God. And it may not be tangible or be able to, you cannot necessarily see it or detect it, but you can experience it, because the things I used to say, I don't say anymore. The things I used to do, I don't do anymore. Not because I can't, it's because I have no desire, because I have been grafted in. Come on, I have been changed by that spiritual code. And so that genetic code is changed. Now, however, the characteristics, the personality that I have today, I still had, but I've been shaped. So although I could curse someone out, I have no desire to hurt someone in that way now, because I've been changed. Okay? And so curses can fall on nations and can fall on people. You can see 3 and 4 generations. The Bible speaks about to the 4th generation. And I said that 4 generations is about 100 years. About 100 years. And I'm going to pray for more wisdom on how to share this next week, Lord willing. But I want you to do your research. And I want you to look back at 1925. And I want you to look at what was happening in 1925. But I want to leave you with this Bible verse. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will heal their land. This is the time. If my shade does not match your shade and you have a problem, I want to encourage you to seek the Lord. Because I'll read this, and I'm going to hop off because I have a client soon. Okay? I'm going to read this. These are a few things that were happening 1925, 1924, that era. Okay? The economic effects in 1925, 1924. The restrictions on immigration impacted various sectors of the economy, with some industries facing labor shortages, while others saw increased capital investment and automation to replace immigrant workers. 1924 contributed to social and political tensions, as it was seen by some as betrayal of the American ideals of welcoming immigrants, and by others as necessary measure to protect the country's identity and resources. Restricting Southern and Eastern Europeans. The quotas significantly reduced immigration from countries like Italy, Poland, Russia, which had seen large numbers of immigrants in preceding decades, but it began to drop because they felt like the ideals of America was contrary to welcoming in Eastern immigrants. There was the exclusion of Asians. The act of completely excluding immigrants from Asia, effectively halting immigration from countries like China and Japan. I have a friend who gave me this book. I have not read this book yet, but it is. She told me of the story. I have friends from all nations. Creator has placed nations in my heart, and this is Exclusion of the Chinese American Story, Race to the Truth. Okay, I think it's a child's book. It's one that everyone can read, but it shares the story. Now, the fourth generation, what does that mean? It means that as a nation, we can inherit a curse if we don't come out of agreement with that belief. Okay? Now, I want to read something else, because when we say, well, that has nothing to do with me, that's those people, right? Go back to where you came from, right? That's those people. That ain't got nothing to do with me. But the Bible says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will heal their land. The condition, the heart of the man is tied to the condition of the land. If the heart is sick, the land will be sick as well. Okay? That's how it works. Because we have been given authority. Now, whether you stand in it or not, that's between you and your God. But the condition of the heart reflects into the condition of the land. It will affect nature. Okay? I won't go deep into that, but it will affect nature. Now, I just want to share briefly with you with this. What was happening in nature during that time? March 18th, I think it was 2025, there was a tri-state tornado. It was the deadliest tornado in history. In October, there was a snowstorm significant that hit the mid-Atlantic, several states. There was record-breaking temperatures, extreme cold, and extreme heat. Because when you have chaos among people that Creator has created, you have opened up a door to the enemy at the gate. Come on, somebody. You have welcomed them in. So I encourage all of us to ask the Lord to search our heart. And if there's any biasness, we all have bias, right? Because we're in a world. But if I am, and I'm not saying that's okay, but I'm saying that we're ignorant to something, right? There's something we don't get, we don't understand, we're ignorant to something. How dare I act as if I know everything? I do not have it all together, and I do not know it all. I'm only here sharing what the Father has given me to share with you. But what I can share is that when we displace others, and we think that it is to our benefit, what we don't see on the other side is something that can overtake us in such a way that we wish we would have done something differently. Okay? And so if we don't turn as a nation, if we don't repent as a nation, we are welcoming the enemy at the gate to come in and render something that we don't want to see. So let's stop matching colors, because that's from Crayola, right? They mastered the art of colors. They mastered the art of black and white and yellow and green. They mastered that. We don't need to do that. It's already been done. Stop matching colors. Stop believing that people deserve a certain fate, because we are not God. It's time to stop playing God. It's time to stop saying what people don't deserve. Everyone deserves quality of life. Everyone. Okay? And so what I wanted to share is that this is 1924. There is a desire for this to reset another 100 years. But the choice is up to us. Okay, DM me. Let me know what's going on, and I will hold you up, okay? So DM me, let me know, and I will hold you up in prayer. All right? And so we want to come out of agreement with anything that we know is not the will of God, okay? Because we can have dark hearts toward man, but it will be reflected in our land because we let the enemy come to our gate, into our gate. All right? I love you guys to life. I hope that you got something from this. Mr. D, it was so good to see you here. Message me and I got your back. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. All right? Until next time, live beautiful. Peace.